Hello, welcome to another edition of the Writer's Craft here on Sparks 1524. I'm Nathaniel Miller. If that ever changes, I'll be sure to let you know. On this edition of the Writer's Craft, I want to discuss something that every writer has had to deal with in some form or another, and that, of course, is writer's block. Now, after a 20-year military career, 15 years of which was as a military journalist and instructor, then a year and a half working as a staff writer for the Navy, the Naval Undersea Warfare Development Center up in Keyport, Washington, and finally, of course, successfully publishing 3 novels. Number 4 is actually in rewrite now. I actually drafted number 4, but based on the experience I've had writing and publishing the first 3 of the Accidental Detective series, I'm doing number 4 completely from fresh. It's the same story, but I can tell it in a much more mature, professional manner. Now, this is all personal. I am not a psychologist, nor did I play one on TV, nor did I stay at a Holiday. Well, actually, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express a couple weeks ago when I was in Tennessee, but that's not important right now. I have found there's 2 types of writer's block that I call chronic and acute. Chronic writer's block is the more difficult animal. That is the long-term one that can paralyze a writer for years. I myself actually suffered, where it comes to creative writing, chronic writer's block for 20 years. Now, I wrote my first novel when I was 13. It was about 70 pages, but it was a full-fledged little novel, and I was so proud. I thought I was ready for the bestseller list. Yeah, that didn't quite happen. I wrote my second novel in 1995 and 1996. It took me 18 months, and it was a science fiction novel. It is the genesis of a science fiction project that I'm actually working on redeveloping now, so you'll see its descendant later on. But it took me 18 months to write it. I was working on the sequel when I finally joined the Navy, and all creative writing stopped. The reasons for that were manifold, and they were all based in my actual circumstances. Being a sailor was an all-consuming effort. First, I was in naval aviation, and then I went into photography and wound up back in naval aviation, working on the flight deck, maintaining reconnaissance cameras on F-14 fighters. That was a very mentally intensive job. And as such, when I got off work, I didn't feel like doing anything that required a lot of thought. I'd want to watch TV, read a book, and just relax. Well, then I wound up in military media full-time as a journalist and a photojournalist, and also later as an instructor. So I'm writing right and left for the Navy. But all my creative energy was still going into professional work as a journalist. So on the creative side, for 20 years, I didn't write really almost anything. For me, that's a blessing. For me personally, that particular creative writer's block, that chronic 20 years writer block, was a blessing because when I came out of it, on the other side, when I started working on the Accidental Detective series that I'm publishing now, it took me actually about 10 months to write what is actually book 2, The Norfolk Murders. That had intended to be the first in the series, but then I realized that I had a much better opening by going back on my master outline to what became Proud Lion, which is book 1. Now, the thing is, Proud Lion, remember, back in 1995 to 1996, it took me 18 months to write a novel. Proud Lion, I wrote in 5 months. Now, how does that play into chronic writer's block? Well, the chronic writer's block that I had in the Navy on the creative side let me grow up. For me personally, it was 20 years I needed to develop as a man, as a person, and as a writer. So I am now ready to do the fiction work. Other people have chronic writer's block for other reasons. And like I said, chronic writer's block is a very difficult animal to deal with because if your writer's block is that pervasive for that long, something big is going on. In my case, literally, it was a military career. Other people suffer chronic writer's block because of tragedies, difficult circumstances, illnesses in the family. There are a myriad of reasons. That is not something I can, as a writer, readily help you with, other than if you and I are talking, I can simply sit here and listen and let you talk through the frustration and be a support. Acute writer's block, however, is something that I can recommend an exercise that might help you, the blank screen. Now, acute writer's block, I would define it simply as that short-term writer's block. You really are in the mood to write, but you have no idea what to write. You've got a project in front of you that you want to work on, but you cannot get it started to save your life. It's even worse if you're having to write for work and a deadline is looming, because deadlines never go away. I dealt with acute writer's block all the time as a working journalist. When I was teaching at the Defense Information School, I came across a YouTube video, and I wish I had the name of this YouTuber, but it was 13 years ago that I saw this video. She had a great, oh, excuse me, no, it wasn't she? Yes, she had a great exercise that she said she did to get her creative juices flowing. She would get her software set up, and I think she may have actually been still using WordPerfect. This was 2009, but she'd get her software set up, turn off the monitor, like I said, turn off the monitor, and then just go free form for 5 minutes, whatever. I decided to try that myself. Now, we're using laptops at the Defense Information School, or DINFOs for short, so you can't just turn the monitor off. But I put a piece of paper over it, gave myself a topic, whatever it was, and said, time 1 minute, just free form for 1 minute. Holy Toledo, what I came out with was amazing. So I started having my students do that, just as a warm-up. Cover their, get their software set up so you could just start typing, cover the monitors, and then if it was a really large class, I'd pick the topic. If it was a small class and we had time to pick a topic together and not lose time, when you have 44 students, you don't have time for a committee discussion. If I had a class with 5 students, different story. And I'd set the alarm for 5 minutes and tell them just work. Some students took a while to get used to this, obviously, but it was amazing what even those students were able to start writing once they got used to the idea of writing without seeing what's happening on the screen. And that right there is one of the biggest triggers of acute writer's block. That deer in the headlights moment when the blank page is right in front of you and you have to start. Plus, we all have a tendency, it's human nature, to correct a mistake as soon as we see it. So you're sitting there typing and you typo its IT apostrophe S into the possessive ITS. Well, the tendency is to back, put the apostrophe in and get going. That just disrupted your thought flow. If you can't see the typos happening, all you can do is focus on the ideas coming out and put it on paper. Now, yes, there will be typos and mistakes and grammatical errors when you pull the paper away and look at what you wrote. But the information, the ideas, the substance of what you're trying to capture is there. The rest is editing. I also change up where I work. I don't always work from home in this magnificent little studio I have. I do a lot of my work here, obviously, because I paid for the place for a reason. I like it. But I go to Barnes & Noble's a lot over on Airport Road here in Pensacola. Being around other people, even if I'm not talking, just looking and observing and just being in the crowd and changing my environment is another way I get around that acute writer's block. If I spend all my time here in my studio writing, there hits me a point where I just block up because I'm alone in the studio writing. Now, yes, I do have a writing moose. Some people have a writing muse. I have a writing moose. This is Kitsap, the writing moose, and he visits me every day. Meh. But changing the environment a little bit also helps just because it breaks that routine. For acute writer's block, that short term, you just kind of, what do I do? The blank screen exercise might be a good one. Pick a topic, set yourself a minute, 5 minutes, whatever on an alarm. Cover that monitor and then go to town. It will take some getting used to, but the very fact that you've removed the tyranny of the urgent, in this case, the tyranny of I have to go fix that typo, allows the creative process to get moving and go into high gear, and allows you to get more accustomed to feeling ideas flowing and focus on the flowing. And then you can go back and work on the editing. Well, I thank you for your time and spending a few moments with me this fine Thursday morning. If you think this video will help anybody, please feel free to like and feel free to share it. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested. I don't just talk about the writer's craft here on Sparks 1524. I do travel logs, talk about veterans issues, sea stories from the past when I was in the Navy, all kinds of things. If you're interested in reading more about this topic, my written column is also linked down below in the description, or you can find it at www.sparks1524.com. That's sparks1524.com. Thank you for your time, and until we meet again, always remember to go and do some great things.